Amy Seiffert, I am so excited. I can't even get through your name without smiling. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for being on For Real.
Thank you for having me. I'm already giddy. I'm trying not to talk over you, but I'm excited to be here.
Seriously, this morning I was all zippy around my house thinking I get to talk to Amy. It's going to be so fun. Be professional. So that's going to be a struggle because I just really think you're fantastic. You and I met. Did we just meet in person the first time? Have we only been in person together one time at the Oaks?
Yeah. And that was the first time I met you. And then people were like, how have you not? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, the Oaks. It was so lovely. You were so fun.
I feel like that was a meeting that should have happened years ago, but I'm glad it happened.
I know.
Onward and upward.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to say to you, top of mind.
Okay.
When we were at the Oaks, you and I were sitting out on a bench at some point, and do you remember this? You showed me on your phone, you had a couple different options, mock-ups for the cover of the book we are discussing today. And look at this beauty.
I know. And I almost felt like it was illegal because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to show anybody, but I was like, Kim can be trusted. Clearly, we know each other 4 minutes. I can talk to her about this.
That's kind of how I roll with you. Yeah. So also tell me about your deepest fears and what's the meaning in all of this. So we went real fast, but the cover's beautiful. You picked a great one. Do you like it? Do you feel?
I love it. And I feel like covers are important because I know you're not supposed to judge a book by a cover, but literally I'll pick one up. We do.
100%.
And I was like, she is everything. There's a silhouette that some people haven't seen. It's like sort of a hidden picture, but she's in there. I know.
I didn't know until you said it out loud on the Instagram. I didn't see the silhouette either. So I'm super excited about it. So beautiful. And yes, we do judge.
We would judge.
We do. So congratulations to you. Well done, team at Bethany House, because they did a great job. Amy, there are a lot of ways we could dive in a lot of places. Okay. We've got a lot in common. We love to laugh. We love Jesus. We have children. We're Midwesterners. I used to be blonde and now I fake it. You look like you are legitimately blonde.
I add to it.
Well, so yours looks natural. Mine looks aged. Anyway,
shout out to Gretchen. Okay.
Yeah, way to go. Lindsay's mine. I just want to say I'm so excited to pick one particular part of your brain off the top. We'll go other places. But here's my question to start us out. You love storytelling. I can tell this not just from spending time with you in real life, and we've chatted many times, not in person, on our phones as well. You love a good story. Yes. You love to laugh. You love to put color and nuance in all sorts of ways, and just your regular storytelling, particularly when you approach the Bible.
Yes.
I just wonder, did you always find the Bible to be riveting and to be interesting? Or was this a process? Because I'm curious about that. You ended up you write and speak about this one particular book. And have you always found it to be really interesting and full of great stories?
Listen, no.
The good.
Answer is no.
You are instantly relatable. Say more.
Oh, for sure. When I first started reading the Bible, I was like, wait, first of all, it's big and ancient and what's going on. But yeah, I didn't find it riveting until when you start to look with an angle, really looking at the women, and you're like, wait a minute. These are real women that had real lives and real sandals that they put on their feet. And let's really step in here. And I felt like slowly over time, people in the Bible started to come alive. They were hot messes. And I was like, me too. This is great. So my hope always is to pull out and help us kind of put ourselves in their shoes and to think, okay, they had problems. They had to-do lists. They had things going on, but they encountered God. These were men and women who encountered God. So now what? We got to talk about it,
Right. What do we do with that?
Yes.
So here's a question for you. How do you reconcile the idea of what you just said, so that there are these real people, and in particular, your new book, which is absolutely beautiful. Your Name is Daughter is the title, and the sub is What the Unsung Women of the Bible Teach Us About Our Worth. So this is a book about identity. I mean, it's about a lot of things, but one of your central theses is what do these stories tell us about who these women were and who we are? And I do want to say, this is not just a book for women. Sometimes in
Yes.
publishing, we are kind of encouraged to look at a very particular niche, and that is great and really smart. But we also talk about secondary and tertiary markets. And if you are male and listening to this, or you know a male listening to this book is for them as well.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. You use these stories, however, of these unsung women.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I want to camp there for a little bit.
Yeah.
30,000-foot question. Why does it matter that we pay attention to these women? What do we miss if we don't?
Ooh, that's such a good question. So many things. So when I first started reading the Bible, I just saw so many dudes. I was like, wait, is this like a book of dudes? Like, what are we? And it's not. However, the women are few and far between, but that kind of makes me think they're gems that we need to pay attention to. And what is God doing through these women? What's happening here? And I don't want to miss how much they play pivotal roles in the story of God and point to who he is and who we are and their bravery, their use of voice. I mean, it took 5 women to save Moses so he could do his job. Like, there's just a lot going on that I didn't ever see until I started to be like, okay, hold on. Like, what's happening here? You know, when you start looking for like a new car and you need a van.
Yeah.
And all you see is vans everywhere now. Like, and so when I started to look at the women, I was like, oh, there's somebody doing this. There's somebody who's Huldah, this prophet I'd never seen. I'd read this Old Testament story and I just totally glossed over and missed her. Right. But she spoke truth to 5 men who took it back to King Josiah and changed the whole trajectory of a nation. I just think some women have been in the background. And to pull them forward to say, hey, they are image bearers, men and women together. And I don't want to miss the beauty, the goodness, the richness they give us about who God is and who we are.
There's a lot there that you just said, and a lot of years of untangling these things for me. So I'm so grateful we're having this conversation. I'm going to get a little picky about, not picky. I want to zone in on what you said at the top of that, which is you look at the real estate in scripture allotted to stories of men and stories of women. And I would love you to speak into that to a listener who says the Bible is categorically sexist. Right. I know this is rough. Like, let's just have that conversation because I mean, really, little girls growing up, there have been times when I've spoken at our church and girls will come up to me crying and will say, thank you for speaking. And it's not, and I want to hold that very carefully. This is definitely not, your book, and this conversation is not a dismantling as much as it is an adding and an untangling of a big fat knot that we have made for ourselves. And so I'd love you to talk about that. What if there is a person, and I definitely in my life have wondered, let's just look at real estate here. Let's look at words devoted to where am I in this story? Yeah. You do a great job in this book of coming back to the beginning, and I'd like to talk about that as well. But what do you say to that girl who says, no, this book is not for me. Just look at how many people, how the light shining in the different corners. My corner is almost dark. What do you say to her?
Yes. Okay. This is where I'm a year and a half in seminary. And these are all the questions we're asking. I'm in a women's cohort, which is super fun. Awesome. So we're like, I have questions.
With a lot of mutual friends, delightful people, including the unparalleled Jamie Nato, who we have discussed.
I mean,
and who you will have a podcast with soon, and it will be magnificent. So
shout out.
Jamie, Jess Connolly, I believe, is in that cohort. Lots of great women who are asking these same questions. So tell me what you're learning.
We're all together in the safe place asking these questions. So a lot of what we're learning is context. So understanding that the way everything has been written down was through like a patriarchal lens. Yeah. And
just because of when the people were writing.
Exactly. Yeah. Like this wasn't a sexist thing. This is when the people were writing, and this was the society. And in fact, I kind of love this. The way a patriarchal society was supposed to work was really beautiful. It just didn't end up working like that a lot. Yeah. Like the father's house that idea of a patriarchy as the father's house was meant to protect for human flourishing. And
Mm.
if a woman was widowed, she was supposed to be protected in the father's house, and they all lived together and they helped each other. But often that's just not how it worked. And there was abuse and misuse and all kinds of things happening
Mm.
because we are messy, broken, sinful people.
Right. We've done this a lot of times, taken something meant for good and just decided to bring it off the rails. We're good at that.
Yes. So that's not the blueprint wasn't to just show only a men's point of view. In fact, you see God, it's almost like when there's Adam and Eve in the garden, you see these series of covenants afterward where he talks with Noah then and reestablishes his relationship, and Abraham, but the wives are mentioned as well, and their children and their names. And I want to call to that, to be like, we are here. We're not missing in the story. We're right here, though it is in a big, huge context of patriarchy, which I know can feel like a bad word, but it just helps frame things of like, oh, we're here. We're right here. It's just in the location that he was working with.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we spend a lot of time now trying to, in good practice, talk about the things of faith and the things of God and the gospel story within our cultural context. I mean, I spend a lot of time translating and working as a diplomat in my head, in my heart, in my words with people who don't know Jesus yet. I would never come up to them and say, let's begin with genealogy. I mean, right? So we're naturally already doing some of that translation work. It feels like it would be an honoring exercise to say, okay, well, what was the first audience hearing when they read these words?
Yes.
And how can I enter into that? You do this beautifully in your book. You take the stories of some women who were familiar to me and some that, just as you said, my eyes had just bounced over many times.
Yeah.
I mean, that you name, I just didn't know that the midwives of Moses were named. Never in my whole darn life.
Shifra and Puah, and I honor them because they were amazing. I know, Exodus chapter 1. You're like, here they are.
Didn't even know. And there are multiple times in your book where I thought, oh my gosh, let's camp here for a hot minute. And you do it so beautifully. I also love it that you have sections of your storytelling that really force us to be in the sensory moment. Well done.
Thank you. That's a new one for me. Kind of these vignettes where we pop in there and experience what she is. So I'm glad that was working. It
enriches the whole experience because you have a very good writerly fiction voice, and I can't wait to read your first novel.
Oh,
I know you need another project, so here I just gave that to you.
Right. Thank you.
So one of the women that you center an entire chapter on is Eve, and the idea of how we began with this. I would say the mishearing starts early. I grew up hearing from different sources, not my parents, but elsewhere, that the Genesis story, the focus was that Eve was a helper, and helper in my life in the 80s meant like you get to be the Play-Doh helper in preschool. The actual person who had any sort of voice was the teacher, but you could be the eraser helper. Yes. Or the recess helper.
It's so good.
Right? So implied was, that's cute. Yeah. You don't do a lot of really important things, but it's good that you're a helper. And so again, my parents did not model this. I'm not throwing one human being at my church under the bus. I'm saying as an English translation situation, you make the argument that that's not a full picture. So just as an example, this is my only one that I'm picking out of the book. I'd love for you just to kind of take a moment and talk about Eve and talk about Azer and how that's different than Play-Doh helper.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yes. Oh, I love talking about this. In fact, shout out to Tim Mackey at the Bible Project, because he was the one that showed me, and I went on a deep dive. I was like, oh,
awesome.
Yes. Phenomenal work. Cause he's a Hebrew scholar. I'm not. So, Azer. Yeah. So the word helper, like she will be a helper that we see in Genesis, is the word Azer, what I think is fascinating is that it is a word primarily used for God, who steps in and helps, rescues, delivers, goes to war for the Israelites when it is life or death.
Mm.
That's a little bit different than like Plato Helper.
A little different. There's a little bit, there's
And
a little more
just
zest
like a
in
little
there.
bit. Yes. And
Well,
so when I came to realize, like, oh, okay, like 16 out of the 21 times you see the word Azer, it is for
okay.
God.
Okay.
And he is strong and he is rescuing. And the way the Bible Project translates it is a delivering ally,
Mm.
which I think is so beautiful. This isn't like, oh, that's nice that you're here. This is like, oh no, if you didn't show up, we
Mm.
wouldn't be able to do this. Like we
Mm.
would be in big trouble. That
Mm.
kind of. And yeah, so I really hope to kind of restore that idea. And I heard a podcast, they were like, where did helper come from? They're like, we actually don't know. Like,
Really?
yeah, they were like, we looked at Wycliffe translations and it's just kind of there. It should be a correspondent ally, a rescuer, a deliverer. Where he was like, it's not good. It's not good that he's alone. We need
Mm.
somebody who's going to mirror who he is to be
Mm.
able to be like to co-rule and co-reign and be co-blessed and co-commissioned to do this good work in the garden and
Mm.
beyond.
I love the metaphor you use of being a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yes. Well, Eve means life. And so I was like, it feels like she's a lifeguard. And I was like, not the kind you see like
Totally.
swinging your whistle around and bored
I'm
to death.
glad you said that because I did go to inactivity, but well tanned. And
Yeah,
that's not what you mean.
No, yes, not the ones that I'm like, will she save my life? I don't know. No, the one like
The answer is probably not. But if
I
you
mean,
could
good
make a
luck.
lot of noise and like throw something at her phone, maybe.
Maybe I'm drowning. But just that, like if you're drowning, you want a lifeguard who will step in and rescue. And in that way, that's what I mean, that she
Mm.
guards life and steps in and rescues. And you really do see women after woman guarding life. Again, we talked about the women, the midwives were guarding life. They were like, no, we will not throw babies in the Nile, Mr. Pharaoh.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing courage that I've never paused to consider how shameful of me. I'm in the narrative. I'm watching. I just had never thought about
Oh, I
the
love that.
guts and grit that would take to say,
Can you imagine?
actually, no.
No.
Actually,
Like
no
they
to
put their life at stake for other lives. They're
amazing.
phenomenal. I have never heard a sermon on them. I'm like, what's happening? Like, we got to look at this. I want to shine a spotlight on these women because it's phenomenal.
I have a question about how this has affected your life in your own house. So first, I'd love to know, have you seen shifts in the way you view yourself as you have written about these women? You,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
you, not just because I think sometimes when we're writing or when we're speaking, I get into much more like I'm looking at the reader, I'm looking at the listener, I'm hopeful for them. And it's shocking to me how late sometimes that hope really sinks into me on my daily. What are you finding with that?
That is such a good. Are you reading my mail? Like, what were you in my living room yesterday? Come on.
No, but I think I'm not alone with that.
I feel like God has said, you need Huldah. In launching a book into the world, I'm sweating. It comes out in a month and I'm sweating, or whenever you launch this podcast. But because I'm like, oh, I'm putting things out there and it could be rejected, all the things. But the irony is the women that I'm writing about were so brave and doing so many things. And I need to remember I'm on their shoulders. I stand on their shoulders.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel like right now I need to remember a lot of how brave they were. And even if they had to do it scared, shaking, they still did. They said the thing, they voiced what needed to be voiced. So yes, these women have emboldened me in a way that I need now, real time.
Tell me about where you need courage, because there, according to what you reveal in this book, you seem like a really courageous person. Like in high school, you were wearing interesting clothing, like medical scrubs
I
for
I
fun.
was a fashionista. What can I
Hmm.
say?
I do love
Uh,
that. You have great style. But what does make you scared? When you say that, like put some
yeah.
flesh on that, because
Yeah. Okay.
here's my reason for doing that. I'm not trying to read your mail. I'm not trying to be personal.
Yeah.
I like to continually peel the onion back on this idea that people who write about Jesus have all of their things together and there's
Mm,
nothing left for him to excavate in their hearts. That is a lie. And I
yeah.
feel like that's actually a very dangerous thing for us to start thinking, well, she wrote about unsung women. She must feel very courageous all the time. That's awesome. So if that's true, you can
Yeah.
correct me. But if not, what are some things maybe that you don't struggle with anymore, or that you do that are still, gosh, I really would love to be more courageous here?
S- this is such a good question. Yes, yes, yes. I need courage all the time to, okay, so I'll unwrap this. I'm an Enneagram 3.
Okay.
I want people to like me.
Mhm. I do. I do like you. So you are safe here.
So I've won. I've won. I'm winning. I'm also competitive. Um,
And achiever.
I so
I'm
I
married
think
to you.
are
Mark is
you?
you. Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh,
know about this.
well,
I know about this.
you
Yeah.
like him,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
that's
he's fantastic. No, we
you're
need
in.
you. We need you in the world.
Okay.
But you
So
might be fearful of people thinking poorly of you.
yes, fear of rejection. So insecurity all the time. It's funny. I feel very brave when I write the things and I'm like, yes. And then when it's later and I wrote it and I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're doing this.
So relatable. So relatable. I wouldn't recommend ever writing a book about grace, for example,
Right.
because although you wrote a book about grace too.
But I
But
love
isn't that
yours is amazing.
horrible? No, that's horrible because you can never be the person who's like, oh yeah, done, over, no grace for you, sucker.
You
No,
can't.
because I wrote a book about it.
You, you have to be a Grace dispenser from now on. Bubble
Oh,
gum coming out always. I know. Yeah.
yeah.
What have we
So
done to
no, your
ourselves?
courage, girl. Sorry, unsung.
Sorry. Time to sing. I know. This I gotta be courageous. It's funny. I'm like texting my lead pastor on the side who I asked to like read it ahead of time. I'm like, if you're gonna launch this book and like your name,
Yeah,
yay, Summit City Church, will you read it? And he loves it. He's like, this is so good. And I'm like, tell me again why you're
totally.
supporting me. Like, I need to know. Um, just because
Yeah,
like
totally.
I'm just I'm zooming in on some things that I think has gotten really muddy for
Mm,
women. And I think we need to just what you said, untangle some narratives and to be like, hold
hmm.
on, there's so much here that I think has been covered up. Can we
Totally.
uncover and take a look? Yeah.
Totally. It's such beautiful, beautiful work. And also, it's costly to a
It's
person.
cost.
I was talking with another writer yesterday, and she said, I feel on the cusp of this release, I feel like I've been working really hard in a trench, and I'm about to pop my head up out of the trench. And she said,
Yes.
I'm rethinking and feeling like maybe I'll just keep this to myself because there is a lot of, I mean, there's just a lot of vulnerability involved with
Yes.
writing things that will challenge the reader to hold things up to the light and twist them around a little bit in
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
capacity. So
You
what
said
I'm
it.
saying, Amy, is this is normal that you're hyperventilating into a
Thank
paper
you.
bag. I support you. I will send you paper bags. And also you've done really, really great work.
Thank you.
Um, a couple more. Number one, you have a daughter named Olive, which is a really
Yes.
great name.
Isn't that sweet?
What's your hope for her? What is your hope for her as she starts to think about her own worth?
I want her to know, and I put this in the lab. I'm gonna get teary, Kim. I want her to know that wherever she finds herself, like whatever room she walks into, to hold her head high, because if her father has put her to it, there's nothing she cannot do. And I've walked into many rooms and I've thought, oh no, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. Where's the exit? This isn't for me. And I want her to stay put and look around and be like, God has something for me here. I have something to offer. Um, I want her to have a confidence because of the stories. I really hope these stories that I point to and the theology that we look at would just really sink down deep into her bones. And she would be like, yeah, I need to be here and it's good. Like that's my hope.
Sounds pretty courageous to me. I think it's sinking in, all those things you're telling us. It's awesome. Think of what a beautiful gift that is for your daughter. Sometimes I think about the things that I write, and I'm positive that no one will ever put them on the Pulitzer list or that there will be statues made. But I do think, golly, what I wouldn't give to have a few of the thoughts of my great grandmother, my great great grandmother in print so that I could have just an inkling of how she was learning and growing and what she was picking up and putting down. Would you not? I mean, that would
Yes.
be amazing.
No, you're so right. For sure.
So
You're
no
right.
matter what happens with these barcodes that we're slapping on there,
Right.
um, Olive has this treasure
Yeah.
forever. I mean, that's really not, that's no small thing.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I wanted to feel like a handbook. If she's like, I don't know how to
Mm,
do this. I think my mom wrote something about this somewhere. Oh yeah,
amazing.
let's look at, Mary. Let's see, Hannah. Yeah. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
How have you shifted in your own life since the last book you released? And then I'm close to letting you go. Listeners, before we got on, Amy discussed that she has been violently ill this week. If you're watching on YouTube, you cannot tell because she's evidently beauty comes with being sick at her house. If you want to hang out at the Stewart house, you will be the one to call 911 for how I feel and look, but she looks cute. Anyway, you have been ill. I don't want you to rush out and get an IV. Instead, just two more questions and then you may get your IV.
Okay. Thank
How
you.
have you shifted in your own head and heart and spirit since the last time you released a book? So I'm not really asking about the content. I'm talking more
Yeah.
about, we have a lot of people listening, some of whom are writing or creating, but we all can identify with, oh, here's a mile marker. The
Yeah.
last time I went through this, or the last time I, had this moment, I was a different person.
Yeah.
So how are you different?
This is so great because why do we do this to ourselves, Kim? Like, why do we catalog in for all to see our growth and journey? Like
Mm.
they can see, like, oh, um,
In
I
print?
in print.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
torturous.
horrible decision.
What are we doing? I have changed a lot in my brain. This book has been about 25 years of questions that have come at me specifically because I am a Bible teacher and have taught. And when you at the top of the show mentioned girls coming in tears, like, thank you for speaking. Like I saw a woman speak up front with a microphone. That's life changing. And it feels like, oh my gosh, I can do this. So when I would speak, people would ask me questions like, hey, what do you think about women in leadership and women? And I needed to figure it out
Mm-hmm.
because I was banking on a few things, but I was like, what's the whole of scripture? So this book
Mm-hmm.
is a journey of me finding more and more confidence of like, oh, women were doing all the things all over. And it's good. It's good. So I've changed. I have grown in confidence in my gifts and abilities. And also, I love this. A friend said this to me the other day, and I'm holding it close. She's like, you've opened the door, like as a pioneer, you're opening the door and you're holding it for more women to come in, which that is a hope too. Like we have gifts to give the world. We need all the gifts. We need women who are doing all the things. It's important. We both bear God's image, men and women, side by side, not one over the other, like just side by side. It's more fun, truly. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've grown in confidence.
Awesome. No, I don't know. I'm not, I think we would be amiss to not recognize what we're missing.
Yes.
It's less like I want my equal time on the mic and much more, where are we impoverishing ourselves because we're muting?
Yes.
What
Yeah.
a foolish thing to do when God's not the one who set that up.
I know.
So I love it. I love what you're doing. I would like to ask you how you will celebrate this, because
Oh,
many times in our lives as writers, there's no celebration, right? I mean, have you ever had just a little bit of like, oh, if I worked at a bank, they'd give me a plaque. At least I'd have lunch brought in. So you have to celebrate the moment. So do you have any plans to celebrate this?
I actually do. The team that I'm on, the church that I work at, there's a confetti budget. I'm not
Oh,
kidding.
glory.
Because it's just big. Like
I
celebration
love
is
it.
like built in. So they're like, oh, we're doing a book launch party that day.
Yes.
So they cannot wait. And it's so
That's
fun.
awesome.
And they're like, what kind of cookies can we design? Like it's just
I love
year round. You should
this.
just come to this party. Yeah. So we're just going to open up to the world and be like, come to the book launch party and eat cute cookies and have a Q&A. And who knows, there might be a dance party afterward.
Yeah. I love it. Hallelujah for a group of people who are celebrating for you and with you. That's awesome.
Truly.
My final question, Amy, is something that I ask all of my guests. It is a nerd question.
Okay.
I call it the book nerd question. What are you reading, nerd? Now, you are in seminary.
I know.
So your list is probably fairly academic, but talk to me about some things that my listeners might like to pick up.
Okay. It is nerdy, but I think it's super, super accessible. In fact, I keep recommending it. It is called Epic of Eden
by Sandra Richter.
Listen, have you read it? Do you know her? What do you have?
No, I asked for it for Christmas because it has been bandied about so much in the last year. Okay. My best friend is also in seminary, and I asked her this question, and that was top of list. She loves it.
This is what I want to say. Okay. Women who are scholars in these spaces. She had me when she started with the Old Testament probably feels like a messy closet with your clothes everywhere. And you're like, what is it? How do I sort through? She's like, I'm going to give you a rod. I'm going to give you shelves. I'm going to organize your Old Testament closet. I was like, sold.
Totally.
And she does. So
fantastic.
I can't recommend it enough. And she's the one who helped me with like patriarchal, familial, like all the different father's house, different things. Yeah.
Great recommendation. Yeah. You should get royalties because I've heard such great things, and I think our listeners are part and parcel of the group that would love to read that. So we'll put the link in the show notes, but that comes from Amy herself. Thank you for spending time with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for writing a beautiful book. Thank you for saying out loud the results and kind of where you have landed after so much scholarship on your own. You are bringing into the room all of these ideas that we are not in seminary, all of us. And so you are doing this beautiful thing saying, look at what I found. Look at the treasures hidden in this dark. So thank you for that. God bless you. I hope that you sell a gazillion copies of this book. Thank you. And I hope you're all done feeling ill. And I hope more than anything, that I look like you the next time I'm sick.
Look, curling irons can do wonders. Okay, that's it.